Hi, welcome back to my channel. It is that time for me to give you a week's end wrap up or a mid-month wrap up, however you want to look at it, because we are going into the third week of August. So I basically will tell you what I read last week and summarize what I've read so far this month. For the second week in August, I read 18 books. 7 of those were audiobooks and 11 of those were ebooks. In the very first week of this month, I read 17 books, and 12 of those were audiobooks. 1 was a print book, and 4 were ebooks. And to break it down one more time, 1 print book, 19 audiobooks, and 15 e-arcs. August so far was heavy with audiobooks, but it's already tapering down. And that was heavy with audiobooks because of 2 reasons. One is I'm doing a lot of monthly challenges, and a lot of the books that I'm reading for the various challenges, whether they're criteria or prompt or whatever they are, I'm usually getting them from my library or via Overdrive or by Hoopla, maybe even Scribd or Audible. And so because of this, I have... Oh, I'm sorry, there was 2 reasons. The second reason is the first week of this month I read the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan, and I got those all in audiobook format. My average basically is maybe 10 or 20% audiobook and 80 to 90% electronic books. But again, I'm working on challenge criteria, so I'm grabbing stuff from the online sources. Okay. As far as this week is concerned, and this wrap-up is concerned, I just want to give you some highlights from certain books. I won't be giving you a review of every single title that I read. I just want to talk about the highlights. So, the first book for a prompt that was good book, terrible movie was a little bit of a challenge to me because I'm not a movie watcher. Yes, we have Netflix and we have the Roku and we have On Demand, but I still don't watch a lot of movies. So the question was to me, I had to move a notification. The question to me was, how am I going to find a book that would fit this prompt? So I was able to get some recommendations, and the recommendation was My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. Easy. That was pretty easy for me to say, okay, yes, I'll read that, because at a library sale a couple of years ago, I grabbed 3 of her books, and thus far I've only read one, which is not My Sister's Keeper. It was House Rules. So when My Sister's Keeper was recommended, I decided definitely I would read that. It was really a really good book. It was one sister who had cancer, and another sister who was created by means of in vitro just so that she could be a donor for her sister. So it turned out to be quite an ethical read. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. Now, this won't be out until mid-October, but there are certain authors that when I get their books as galleys from NetGalley or Edelweiss, or if I get them in the mail, or if I get them as widgets directly from the author or the publisher, that I can hold off on reading. So Invisible Girl was a book that I just had to read right away. And we have 3 primary protagonists in this book. We have Owen Pick, who was a little weird, kind of a weird fella, but he was a geography teacher who lost his job because he was accused of lewd behavior around young girls. Then we have Rowan Forrest, who is a child psychologist who treated at-risk teens. And the third character I'll mention is Sapphire Maddox, who was treated by Rowan for 3 years, and he closed the case and considered her fixed. Well, she feels that she was far from fixed, so she wants him in her life one way or another, so she begins stalking him, and therefore she's the invisible girl because he never realizes that he's being stalked. Well, the way that Rowan, Owen, and Sapphire tie together, or we already know how Rowan and Sapphire tie together, but how does Owen enter into this little picture? Well, it's because he was the last one to see her alive, so therefore he's charged with her disappearance, and he's also has a murder charge hanging over his head. This book was amazing, multi-layered, and very difficult to put down. Now, the next few books I mentioned will be again for criteria reasons. I needed one that was a book with a silhouette. So when I Googled them on, I just Googled books with a silhouette, and a lot of titles came up, and I screenshot a group of titles to the group that I'm in, and someone said, "Oh yeah, A Long Walk to Water. That's a great book, Robin. You should read it." So it's by Linda Sue Park. Great read. I'm so glad that I read it. It was about the lost boys of Sudan, but there was a female character in the book, and the question is, how did they tie it together? A very short book, 128 pages, but boy, did it pack a punch. I also needed a book that was written in journal or diary format, so I chose to read Flowers for Algernon by Danielle Keyes. And my, oh my, what an impressive book. It's a book that a lot of people read during their school years. For some reason, I didn't read it, but I read it this week, and I did get it by Overdrive from my library, but this is a book that I'm going to use an Audible credit for so that it becomes a permanent part of my library. This is a book that I'd like to see my children and grandchildren read, so I'm going to be putting the pressure on them. Let's see. Another serious book I read was the prompt was good book, terrible movie, I think. No, not good book. Oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake in my notes. This was a book turned into a television series or something along that line. So I chose Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty. It was about school moms and their kids, and there was gossip, there was backbiting, there was other very negative behavior, but it was a really good book, and I listened to it in 2 sittings. The book was between 12 and 15 hours, but I usually listen to books on 2 speed in audio format. So in 2 sittings, it was 6 to 7 or 8 hours, and it was well worth it. I had 3 Own Voices books in my TBR from NetGalley, and as it turns out, I needed another criteria. And by the way, I love these challenges. They are no work. It's creating a TBR. And then when I create the TBR, I leave space for books that are going to come in the form of prompts and criteria. And then I will go to my online libraries and look up some recommendations and go from there. So for this one, I needed 3 books that represented or that accentuated diversity. So I looked at my NetGalley, and I had Wild Rain by Beverly Jenkins. I had How to Catch a Queen by Alyssa Cole, and I also had When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. So boom, I killed 2 birds with 1 stone. I met that criteria, and I read books that I need to review for my blog. Now, I don't have the release dates in front of me, but I think these books either won't be out to the end of the year, and at least 1 or 2 won't be out until the beginning of next year. But they were very good reads. And actually today or tomorrow, I will be writing up all of those reviews, and those will be on Goodreads for now, and they will go up on my blog at release date. Let's see. The next book I read was not for a criteria. It's because I have a blog tour. I believe my blog tour for this book is on the 21st, so in a few days. And so that book is called The Last Story of Minna Lee by, I'm going to butcher this name, but it's Nancy Jooyoon Kim. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So this book, like I said, I have it for a blog tour, so I read this book, and it's basically about a mother and a daughter who were estranged, and the daughter decides to go visit her mother. She travels thousands of miles to go visit her mother, only to discover that her mother is dead. And now she wants to know not only who killed her mother, quite obviously, but she also wants to know more about her mother's life, because what she's finding is not what she expected. So I'm glad that I got a chance to read that, and that review is only so far drafted. I have to finalize that review and have it ready for the 21st. And then I had 2 books in my TBR, which were Fatal Yarn and Knit of the Living Dead by Peggy Earhart. And these are a cozy mystery series. And last year I read the first 3 books in this series, so I wanted to read So the two I have for review are books number 5 and book number 6. So therefore I grabbed book number 4, and the screenshots will show these titles. And I read those 3 books over the course of the weekend. I read them between Friday and Saturday. And as we draw to a close, I want to talk about 2 other books that I just have to highlight, and they are City of Windows and Under Pressure by Robert Povey. Now, I got Under Pressure as a review title from Minotaur Books. They send out a newsletter of sorts, and you just click the books that you want. Now, usually Minotaur sends me their books via print, but with COVID, I'm getting more of their titles electronically. Well, I found out that Under Pressure was a second book in the Lucas Page series. So because I always try to read books in order whenever it's possible, sometimes it's just not possible, I want to go back and grab the previous books, and so that's why I got City of Windows. I am so glad I did, because I love Lucas Page, and although I've only read 2 books in this series, I kind of think he's going to be one of my favorite male protagonists or heroes, so to speak. Now, Lucas was injured in a blast, so he has a prosthetic arm or hand, a prosthetic leg, and a prosthetic eye. Well, at the time he was an FBI special agent, but he no longer works for the FBI. He went through a lot with all of those injuries and restarting his life. Meanwhile, he's a good husband and a wonderful father. They adopt children, as a matter of fact. But now there are very specific crimes that the FBI is trying to handle, so they hire Lucas to come in and to help them to analyze what happened in order to solve these crimes. Now, Lucas is, sorry, that's my grandson. I'm going to try to finish up. Lucas is an enigma of a man. Okay, this last part of my video I had to edit because my grandson was knocking on my office door. But I did want to talk about the last 2 books that I wanted to highlight, and they are City of Windows and Under Pressure by Robert Povey. Now, Minotaur, which is an imprint of St. Martin's paperbacks, sends me these books usually as print arcs, but due to the pandemic, I'm getting them as electronic arcs for right now. So I had Under Pressure for review, and because I discovered it is the second book in the Lucas Page series, that I absolutely just had to read the very first book in the series, which was City of Windows. I really love Lucas Page. I don't know how I could fall in love with a character that quickly in the course of just 2 books. And basically, Lucas was a FBI special agent who was seriously injured to the point of having a prosthetic arm, a prosthetic leg, and a prosthetic eye. So he no longer works for the FBI, instead focusing on his family life with his wonderful wife and his gorgeous children, some of whom he adopts. And then some very serious and difficult to solve crimes come up, so the FBI asked Lucas to come in and to work with them. And now Lucas, please forgive the noise, but Lucas is an enigma of a man. He has the ability, as I mentioned, to read a crime scene, just to walk in there and read the entire scene, and it helps to identify the killer that much quicker. So he did that in both books of the series, and again, they are City of Windows and Under Pressure. This is a series that I know I'm going to want to read a lot more of, so I cannot wait and see what else Lucas Page has in store. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.